thinkers who can't reach the world. And then we have talented writers, people who are devoted and dedicated to being a writer, and I wanted to put them together. This is kind of an experimental thing that we're doing. I don't really know what's going to happen at the end of this, except that I hope we still like each other. And, my idea has been that there are a couple of different people in this world, kinds of people, but there are the incredibly likable, smart, handsome, beautiful people who are nonfiction writers. And then there are scholars and scientists and engineers, lots of attorneys and physicians who are incredibly boring. They know a lot of stuff, right? They know all kinds of stuff, but they're boring. And they think they're funny, but the concept is that we have these scholars coming in, and I wanted to bring you guys together, because if there's something that I think writers lack, is an inherent ability to think as clearly very often as scholars and academics, or as deeply enough. I'm going to teach you craft today, but the really hard thing, more challenging than craft. Craft is easy in many respects. It's quite mechanical in many respects. But figuring out what you want to tell your reader is really the challenge. Learning a lot from different people. Thinking creatively, thinking deeply. The challenge, it seems to me, for a writer is more so than just writing, it's thinking. Creative nonfiction is a combination, as I said to you, of style and substance. Information and ideas presented in a story-oriented way. The new journalists began dealing with creative nonfiction, or with this narrative nonfiction, in the 1960s and the 1970s, and it was Tom Wolfe who first said that we creative nonfiction writers, or in this case, we new journalism writers, write in scenes. And that's the first thing to always try to remember that we are doing. And I will say this to you again and again and again. And in all of the 25 or 15 pieces that we will deal with today, I am going to show you scene after scene after scene after scene. Because the building blocks of creative nonfiction are scenes.
I was wondering if the scientists that we've been paired with, if their projects were chosen partially for their narrative potential.
No. I mean, that would be too right on the money. We're talking about wonks.
Okay.
They were selected on the basis of their wonkiness. Okay? So here's what's going to happen. You have a couple of hours to figure out how your world is going to change. Okay? And you have a couple of hours to figure out what to do next. That is to say, how you are going to link with your partner and what it is you guys are going to write together. Figure out which of these editors you would like to pitch and how you're going to pitch them quickly. You have to get one idea and pitch in no more than 3 minutes, okay? And Dave is one of the toughest, meanest men I have ever seen in my whole life, and when he's gonna say 3 minutes over, you have it. One of the most exciting publishing events in the history of Arizona. The CSPO, Creative Nonfiction, Narrative, Pitch Slam. Let's start by talking about Smithsonian Magazine.
All right, thank you very much. So Smithsonian Magazine, I brought up a few issues here. I'll be holding them up to make other points as I continue. But basically it's a a very glossy, colorful, lots of art, lots of great photos magazine. We've got a pretty big subscription base. We have about 2 million subscribers, which we, kind of shamelessly claim means about 6 million readers.
I'm Campbell. I'm editor-in-chief of Nature. So Laura did a great job there in defining what a magazine article feels like. And one of the problems, Nature has a problem, which is its identity. What beast is Nature?
In many ways, we are the anti-Smithsonian. Smithsonian aims and reaches the middle of the country, and generalist issues in science and technology is unabashedly elitist. New York, Washington, Boston, San Francisco, Los Angeles, London, Paris, a few other places it's read a lot. And also it's very abstract. It's not about people, it really is about ideas and policies.
My name is Scott Hoffman. I'm one of the founding partners of Folio Literary Management. We're a Manhattan-based literary agency. On these panels, I like to represent the voice of crass commercialism. And so everything you hear me say today will be from that perspective.
And our final speaker will be Leslie Meredith, who is the managing vice president of Simon & Schuster, and you are the senior managing editor of Free Press?
Senior editor.
Senior editor at...
The oldest senior editor.
The oldest and the nicest and the most youthful senior editor at Free Press.
We really raised the question, is pursuing renewable energy on the scale of our current energy infrastructure really going to bring the just, sustainable, green society that we all dream of?
Okay, when you hear the words climate change policy, they seem kind of abstract and vague, and we thought that a really good way to look at what's going on in climate change policy is to look at a specific example. One of the ecological regions that really exemplifies a lot of the issues that are going on is called Crown of the Continent, which includes Glacier National Park, parts of Montana, and the Rockies. It's a great area to look at because it has a lot of history. There are hundreds of thousands of years of climate record in the rocks.
And also in the identification and recruitment of biologically naive research populations for pharmaceutical development.
And that was interesting. When she said the term biologically naive, I said, I've never heard that. And it turns out to mean populations that aren't already taking a lot of medicines, so you can test pills on them because you don't have to worry about something else interfering. And I thought, whoa, that's got some ethical implications, but what a strange term. And in some ways, we're also the ones who are biologically naive because we're a little naive about the whole history of our medicine. And so even though this may appeal to a certain audience, in some ways it may also appeal to anybody who takes a pill, which is pretty much all of us at one time or another.
After the passage of the Endangered Species Act in 1973, the U.S. government listed all 6 species of sea turtles in marine waters. The finger of blame for the population decline pointed towards the shrimpers, whose nets couldn't discriminate between a 2-ounce shrimp and a 200-pound loggerhead.
And this is because science and technology themselves are posing fundamental questions about what it means to be human and to lead a meaningful life. For example, cognitive and physical enhancements are posing questions about identity, about memory, about superior and excellent performances. Cloning is posing questions about the proper relationship between generations and the significance of procreation. So these questions will be answered one way or another.
Okay, well, we would like to tell the story of a drug, Claritin, that probably everybody knows and is familiar with, and which was a pretty important drug because it enabled people with allergies to not fall asleep all the time while they're taking medicine. And we would like to talk about the rise of this drug to explore the story of the FDA changing drug regulations in 1997 to allow advertising of drugs on TV. And we're interested in, and this was really important in the case of Claritin because it was a drug that wasn't especially exciting, was around for a few years, hadn't really taken off, and then this decision really made it take off.
So Jeanette is a leading disaster sociologist from the University of Colorado. In fact, she's the only one in her field who's studying how people use these technologies to respond to disasters.
The cigarette break I shared with an aging Russian reactor operator yielded the moment I'd been waiting for during the entire 2-hour interview. He began to get beyond his technical talking points to his relationship with his reactors. They are like children. Each one is different, he says, as if remembering something important that he'd forgotten.
And in short, night vision should probably be regulated. But how many people possess this technology? I used it last night to look at the stars in the sky by waving it around, and it told me what was up there. It's pretty wild. Soldiers in the field now are using it to calculate weather, wind, distance, to calibrate their weapons. This is a little bit more of a gray area, and you're probably not going to want to take away every 15-year-old girl's iPhone.
So what do? You know, you should be concerned about this. You should be afraid.
Yeah, anytime you can push people's fear buttons, which this sort of does without really much effort at all, you will get their attention. You want to be careful with that power and not use it manipulatively, but I think you can certainly tell an honest, reasonable story.
I come at this in a couple of different ways. I mean, one thing is these bioethics questions are inherently interesting.
Of the things you listed, I think the random hacks of kindness. Anytime you can get somebody to smile, especially when they're reading about a devastating earthquake, I mean that's humor is a huge help to get people to not just look away from something about earthquakes or technology.
Yeah, the most common question people are going to ask you when you tell them that you're a writer and you're working on a long magazine article or a book is, what's it about? And you have to be able to answer them in one sentence. And that's really the basis for your pitch.
And I think it really has to start with something specific. It can't start with how this is like another abstract problem that you don't understand, like the global economic production system. You say, you think you don't know anything about that, wait till I tell you what you really don't know anything about.
It might seem counterintuitive, but when you're pitching stories like this, particularly if you're pitching books, don't put a current events hook on it. The minute you say oil spill or global warming or whatever, our eyes glaze over, and you're now competing against 80 million other people who are writing on that subject. So to the extent that you can focus it and separate it from all those other stories, you're going to be much better off.
Yeah, I actually really liked the lead-in because it did engender ideas of soul to the machine and Tracy Kidder going into the technology, and even reminds you of the garage on the corner where the guy can listen for a second to your car engine and know what's going on. I mean, it's something we can recognize as an experience, but on this enormous scale.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It sort of sounds like the freakonomics of engineering.
There are very few reptiles that the average reader cares about, the average non-expert reader, but they care about turtles, especially sea turtles.
I mean, I really like the subject, but I'm not sure I can envision the shape of this article.
In which case you have to beware of making your readers feel inadequate.
As we often do, take the first page and throw it away, and then you've got an article. In this case, the first page was good. I wasn't sure what the fourth and fifth page were going to be like and where it was going to come around. I'm going to totally disagree with everybody else on the panel. I think I totally get this. I can see how smart I'm talking about.
I think I'm just a little crazier than everybody else. I mean, the symbolism of security is fascinating to me. Okay, I mean, how much safer are we because we have to take our shoes off going through the airport metal detector?
That's great, but they have something else as well, which the list of what's staying
Can do that book.